Think we are live. I'm not entirely sure. Let me check a couple places. Okay, we're live on YouTube. And we're live on Facebook. So while I wait for people to show up, check out this week's trivia question, and that is, what are plant trials? It's something that here in the greenhouse industry we do all of the time. In fact, I just printed up some trial labels today for poinsettias that we're trialing and testing out. So that's what we're going to be talking about this week. So this week's question is, what are plant trials? And it feels like it's been forever since I've done a live episode. It's been 2 weeks, and usually I'm doing them every single week. That was kind of interesting to not do them for a week. Trying to find the stream here on my phone so I can monitor the comments. That's always what I'm doing here at the start of the stream, where I'm not looking at the screen, I'm looking around, generally being unorganized. There we go. Lost my little phone on. Give me just a second. And hey, the comments are working. I see Dad's watching. Hi, Dad. Alright, everything seems to be working, so let's go ahead and get started with this week's episode of Bob's Live. And you will have noticed, while I had some time off, I updated some stuff. So we got new backgrounds, new titles, cool new logo over here that I slapped together, so yeah. Oh. Find my mouse. There we go. Welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And, well, as you can see, I've updated a few things. I'm now at our Belpre store. I was previously out in the greenhouse, but I decided to move. And, this week we are talking about cultivar trials and plant trialing in general. But before we do that, I wanted to share our social media. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And specifically, Bob's Live, we're on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. So you can watch us there. Um, Someplace where I'm posting more and more is both on Instagram and also TikTok. So I need to update my little doodad right here to add in TikTok because we're also on there now at Bob's Market. So check us out there. And then, yeah, like I said, also Instagram. Trying to be more active on Instagram. I think a lot of people have kind of left Facebook and moved more toward Instagram. So, yeah. Kind of got lost there for a second over on the other screen. This week, I wanted to talk about Cultivar Trials. So, over this past week, the reason why we didn't have our regularly scheduled episode of Bob's Live is because I was at Cultivate, which is one of our industry's largest trade shows. And in fact, it's one of the largest trade shows in the US. And it was kind of cool because, of course, last year, because of the, this is weird. I'm not sure I can actually say it on YouTube. But because of the thing last year, Cultivate was canceled. So they had an online virtual conference. But this year, they were actually the first large conference to be welcomed back to the Greater Columbus Convention Center. And there was about 8,000 people in attendance. And that's down from the usual attendance where they have usually 10 to 12,000 or more. But still, it was a really good turnout. And it was a really great show this year. But as part of the show, they have different events that you can go to. And one of those is visiting the Ohio State University Trial Gardens. So they load you up on a tour bus and take you over there and drop you off. And you've got a couple hours to walk around and get pictures, look at the plants up close, because all of these are new varieties that most people that own garden centers are seeing for the first time. Now, with Bob's, since we have a relationship with Ball Seed, which is one of the largest plant breeders in the U.S., we kind of get behind the scenes access to a lot of the trial and new varieties early. So I kind of know what's coming. But for a lot of the people that visit the trial gardens that are independent garden centers, this is their first time seeing some of those varieties in person. So it's always so I'm kind of taking notes both for Bob's Market and also for Bob's Market, both the wholesale retail side of the business. But it is interesting to see these, especially out in landscape, and I'm going to talk more about that later. But first, I thought we would take a look at the Cultivar Trials. So let's head out there, and I'll kind of give you an overview of what it's all about. This evening at Cultivate, I am here at the Ohio State University at the Chadwick Arboretum and Learning Gardens. And behind me is their 2021 Cultivar Trials. So this is a plant trial garden. Here we can see the plants growing in a landscape to see how they would perform in your yard, for example. So this is where a lot of folks make decisions when it comes to what plants they're going to grow for sale in their garden centers. So it really affects our decision making too of Bob's Market. So let's check out the Cultivar Trials. So also here in front of Howlett Hall, they have just beautiful garden. So another thing to check out while you're here is the green roof on Howlett Hall. So I've been coming out here for a little over 10 years to cultivate and the trial gardens. And each year I stop by and check out this roof. And it's been interesting to see it evolve over the years. As different plants that they planted up here kind of vied and competed against each other, and you can really see the change over the years. Wood sorrel might be a common weed, and it can pop up anywhere, including on a roof. If you're ever in the Columbus area, I recommend stopping by and checking this out. It's definitely worth the visit. And it's really a beautiful stroll just to take in like the beautiful flowers and everything. Alright, so that is the trial garden at OSU. And what makes it kind of interesting is it is what I would consider a manicured trial garden because they take extremely good care of the trial garden. So, what they do is, we want to be able to compare the performance of these plants that they're trialing. So what they did is elsewhere in Ohio, they have a duplicate trial garden that isn't cared for as rigorously as the trial gardens directly on campus at OSU. So let me jump over to their website and let's take a look at it. And by the way, if you're ever in the Columbus area, I recommend stopping by and checking out the trial gardens. It is just beautiful just to walk around there. Of course, you can look at the trial beds, which, they're rectangular beds that are laid out kind of in a pattern. And something that was interesting this year is they're doing construction in behind Howlett Hall. And usually in the area where they're doing the construction, they had a shade tent set up for the plants that require shade. But this year they've moved them out to raised beds, and they actually have little hoops over them with shade cloth. So this year everything was kind of in one spot. It was easy to access and get pictures of, and you didn't have to do a ton of walking. But yeah, you can, if you do a quick Google search, you can find the web page for the Chadwick Arboretum and Learning Gardens. And this page, it talks about the trial gardens. And of course, last year with the thing, they didn't have a trial garden last year either. But this year, they did. So some of these pictures are a little bit older. So like this picture here, one of the things that they had, and I think they've just discontinued it because of the construction that they have going on, is they would trial hanging basket varieties. And they had them up on these little poles at different levels and had drip tubes in them to water them, which I thought was really great because that limits, them swaying around like they would in a hanging basket, but you're still getting that elevation and sort of the same conditions the hanging basket would have. But anyhow, what they do is, let me scroll right there. So you've got the Chadwick Arboretum and Learning Gardens, but then also over in Clark County, that's a mouthful for me for some reason. In Clark County, they have field trials that replicate the trial gardens at the Chadwick Arboretum. So they're duplicate trial gardens, but at the Chadwick Arboretum, they're really cared for exceptionally. At Clark County, it says the field trials at Clark County will feature bedding plants in ground and full sun using the same stock of plants that were grown at Chadwick Arboretum. These gardens will have minimal maintenance and care. So, it's kind of replicating what some people have at home. So that way, if you go to both trial gardens, you can see the difference, because something may perform great if it's being, really cared for and taken care of. But if it's minimally cared for and not fertilized as much and maybe not weeded as much, it might not perform as well. So this really lets you see the difference in the plant trials. But Ohio State University is just one trial garden out of, I don't know, probably hundreds across the U.S. So there's a lot of greenhouses that have their own trial gardens. Ball Seed, who we grow for, that's our seedling operation. We're growing exclusively for Ball and filling orders for them. They have their own trial garden where they trial stuff. So, trial gardens are really important, and it's really important when you take the data set as a whole. So trial gardens kind of compare notes, and folks compare the information from all the different trials and rate them accordingly. So there's an organization, All American Selections. So if you see that something is a All American Selections winner, some of that data that they got in order to give it that award is gained through trial gardens. Another big event in our industry is California Spring Trials. So a lot of the plant breeders are located over in California. So in the springtime, they have spring trials, and it's another huge event in our industry. So this week, I thought I would just kind of give you a peek behind the curtain, I guess you could say, and talk a little bit about something that you can actually go and visit that gives you a little bit of a behind the scenes look. So, here at Bob's, I'm always showing you behind the scenes out in the greenhouse. but this is yet another piece of that puzzle. So let me get back to, there we go. Get back to the greenhouse. um, so yeah, so this is just one aspect of Cultivate. Next week, we're going to be going to the zoo. So that is another thing that I did while I was at Cultivate, specifically with Bob's Live in mind. Because I thought it would be really cool. One of the things that they had this year was they called a landscape zoo tour. And it was a tour of the Columbus Zoo that was directed by their landscaping staff. And it gave us a really unique kind of behind the scenes look at how they manage the landscape and all of the crazy stuff that they have to take into account when you're dealing with live animals from all over the world and also thousands of guests per day. So you have to think of both the animal safety, the safety of the guests, and what the animals can eat, what they can't, and all of this different stuff on top of just managing a landscape and gardening. So it was a really interesting tour, and it was really cool the way they did it. They broke us up into smaller groups so you could really kind of pick the brains of the landscapers that you were on the tour with. And yeah, it was really informative. And I've got some really awesome video that I took, which I'm going to have to really work on editing it. Um, since the zoo was open that day, there was a lot of background noise. So I'm going to probably have to do like a voiceover or something like that. But I need to get cracking on editing that video for next week. So, well, next week we're heading off to the zoo. And, well, until next time, keep growing.